So Mortal Kombat 11 was one of my games of 2019. Not only was it another great MK game, it was also packed to the brim with Easter eggs and references. This week saw the Joker finally released for Kombat Pack owners, and as expected he brings with him an absolute barrel full of Easter eggs. So join me today as we take a look at 20 Easter eggs, secrets and references in Mortal Kombat 11. Oh, and if you think I've missed an Easter egg, then let me know in the comments section or on my social media accounts, the links to which can be found in the description. Anyway, without further delay, let's get started. So let's start with the references to previous NetherRealm games. With the Joker having appeared in the Injustice games and in MK vs DC, he and the characters he interacts with definitely aren't shy about bringing it up in MK11. The first example of this can be heard if you have the Joker fight Sonya Blade.
Had enough of you the first time.
Oh, don't like losing in graveyards.
Not to some face-painted freak.
So the Joker mentions losing in graveyards, which is a reference to Chapter 6 of the DC campaign in MK vs DC, where the Joker meets Sonya in a graveyard, though they don't actually fight there.
Pretty flower for the pretty lady?
Get the hell away from me, you... My wrist portal!
I was going for the eyes!
The next MK vs DC reference can be heard when the Joker fights Kotal Khan.
Whatever happened to Dark Khan?
Dark Khan?
Oh, that's right. You missed it.
So Dark Khan was the final boss in MK vs DC. He was a fusion of Shao Kahn and Darkseid, and hasn't appeared in a Mortal Kombat or Injustice game since. This next reference actually made me laugh. If the Joker faces off against Scorpion, you can hear this.
You, I remember all too well.
Oh, the back of your head's still hurting.
I should have burned you right then and there.
So the Joker asking if the back of Scorpion's head still hurts is a reference to this scene in MK vs DC where the Joker boops Scorpion on the back of the head.
Oops! Where did that come from?
To be completely honest, I'm surprised Scorpion let him live after that. So even though we've been spoiled with some of the best Mortal Kombat games ever over the past few years, there is still a portion of the fanbase who want nothing more than a sequel to MK vs DC. This fact hasn't escaped NetherRealm's attention either, as if you have Scorpion face Shang Tsung, you will hear this.
Why have you returned?
My fanboys were begging for a sequel.
Too bad the story ends here.
Come on NetherRealm, please give us a remaster. The final MK vs DC reference can be found in one of the victory animations. This is the gun down victory pose. So this is a reference to the Joker's fatality in MK vs DC. So that just about does it for the MK vs DC references, but with the Joker being a DC character, he was bound to make some references to the iconic and not so iconic heroes and villains in the DC roster. I'm going to ignore the extremely obvious references like the Joker mentioning bats, as that's a little too obvious for my taste. No, I like the really obscure ones, like this one that can be heard when the Joker fights Nightwolf.
Manitou Raven, is that you?
The name is Nightwolf.
Are you some kind of Apache chief?
So there was actually two DC characters mentioned in that short clip. The first being Manitou Raven, who first appeared in comics in 2002, and the other is Apache Chief, who despite having never appeared in the mainstream DC universe, does appear in DC 1,080 page Giant number 1. As I said, I like the obscure ones. Next up is a nod to the Man of Steel. If the Joker comes up against Jax, you'll hear this.
A lifetime of sacrifice. And for what?
The pride of serving my family and country.
You sound like that big blue Boy Scout.
Okay, so I said I like the obscure ones, but those last two were so out there I had to reel you back in a bit, and what better way to do so than with a reference to Superman. Okay, time to get wild again. This time, if you have the Joker fight Frost, you'll hear this.
There There's a gal I know you would love.
Is she a great cryomancer?
She's Killer Frost.
So it's a slight play on words, but Killer Frost is a name used by several female supervillains in the DC universe, having first made an appearance all the way back in 1978. So these next two are pretty obvious, but I like them, so here we are. If the Joker fights Kotal Khan, you can hear this.
Love the feathers. Do you talk to birds?
A ludicrous suggestion, Jester.
Really? I know a king who talks to fish.
So the king who can talk to fish is an obvious reference to Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman.
I hear you can talk to fish.
The final DC character reference can be heard when the Joker fights Cabal.
Everywhere I go, there's a speedster.
My apologies for boring you.
None needed. You'll be dead in a flash.
So the Joker mentions that there is always a speedster, though not to worry, he will deal with Cabal in a flash. This is an obvious reference to The Flash. Okay, let's take a look at some of the movie references found in the Joker's intros. Before we get into the Batman movies though, let's see how many of you recognise this one that can be heard when facing Jax.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Whatever you say, officer.
Gonna smack that grin right off him.
Did you get it? Okay, it was pretty easy, but Dead or Alive, You're Coming With Me is said by ROBOCOP in, well, ROBOCOP.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
So this next clip is a twofer, as in it references not one but two different films. If you decide to take on Johnny Cage, you will hear this.
Tell your producers I'll star in your next film.
A killer clown? Cliche city.
Just wait till they get a load of me.
So the mention of a killer clown seems like it could be a reference to Pennywise from It. I've heard people on the MK11 subreddit mention that they think it could be a nod to killer clowns from outer space, but with the rising popularity of Pennywise and the numerous references to the clown in games recently, my money is on that being the killer clown in question. The next reference is actually the Joker's last line. Wait till they get a load of me is a line said by the Joker in the fantastic Tim Burton Batman movie.
Wait till they get a load of me.
Speaking of Batman movies, as expected, Joker references at least 3 of them, but as of yet I haven't found a reference to the 2019 Joker movie, so let me know if you find one of those. Anyway, let's start with the Dark Knight references, which is probably best known for the performance of Heath Ledger. Well, if you have the Joker fight Sonya, you will hear this.
Why so serious, army girl?
Fought a lot of bad guys, but none like you.
You've saved the best for last.
So I'm sure you've all heard this one before, but if you haven't, it's a reference to this famous scene from The Dark Knight.
He turns to me and he says, "Why so serious?"
Another Dark Knight reference can be found in one of the Joker's victory poses. The victory pose, called Sudden Death, looks like this. Now this one may be considered a reach, but to me it's almost certainly a callback to this scene in The Dark Knight. For the final Batman movie reference, let's take it back to that classic Tim Burton movie. If the Joker faces Shang Tsung, you will hear this.
You son of a bitch! You stole my face!
I could steal a lot more, clown.
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
So that strange line about rhubarb was said by the Joker in the 1989 movie.
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
So these final 3 Easter eggs didn't really fit into any other categories, so I've decided to place them here. The first can be heard when Joker fights Jackie Briggs.
Well, aren't you a vixen?
I'm off limits, Joker.
As if I respect boundaries.
So the Joker calling Jackie a vixen is actually a reference to the fact that the voice actor for Jackie Briggs is also the voice actor for Vixen in Injustice 2. I suppose this next clip could be considered a movie reference, but it wasn't as obvious as the previous one, so I left it out of that group. If the Joker fights Jax, you'll hear this.
Pick quickly, Sonya or your little girl.
What the hell have you done, Joker?
Oh, this joke's gonna kill.
So the Joker saying that this joke is going to kill is almost certainly a nod to the animated Batman film, Batman the Killing Joke, released in 2016. This final clip teases a possible Injustice 3, which to me is almost nailed on at this point. I mean, the series just prints money. Anyway, if the Joker fights the Joker, you will hear this.
We'll have to make do as a dynamic duo. Only two of us? That's an injustice! What we could do with a third.
So that's it, that's 20 Easter eggs, secrets and references in Mortal Kombat 11's Joker character pack. Let me know what you think of the intros and the character in general in the comments down below. Personally, I was hoping for more back and forth with him and Johnny, as both are quite witty. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you think I've missed an Easter egg, then the best place to let me know is in the comments section or on my social media accounts. If you are a fan of Easter eggs and secrets in games, then perhaps consider subscribing, as that's what this channel is all about. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.